Hello everyone, Buxton is back, and today with a different type of content for the good news, especially to the beginners series. For this is the beginner series 001, and that is now going to be setting now a better understanding for the for those of my viewers who are just beginning. And now, before we move into now more content into this given for this given session, then I would like to urge everyone who has not yet subscribed that indeed you are missing a lot. So please just take a minute, subscribe to this channel, because there is much more coming in right away as I had promised. Do you read that? Please, if you haven't subscribed, please do so, then we continue. Now, for this session that I've told you, it's going to be dubbed Beginner Series 001. We are going to talk about rules of estimation. You can also refer to them as rules of measurement, depending on which region you are in, and you're going to understand the reason I'm talking about region, because different parts of the world refer to different rules. So for these rules of measurement, or you can say rules of estimation, the very beginning I would like us to get to the reasons why these rules are applied. Why would someone, a given governing body or a professional body, decide that we need to have specific rules which is governing this profession, and they have to be adhered to in one way or another? So reason number one is for the purposes of uniformity, because you understand that being a profession, then there are various participants within that given field. So these participants need to communicate in one common way, and that is why these rules are put in place, so that there is no hitch in terms of communication from one group to the other. So if you are a member of the profession, for example, if you are a quantity surveyor in a given country, say Kenya, say Malaysia, say Australia, New Zealand, then you need to be referring to one specific rule, so that for the benefit of the profession, and for the benefit of also the clients, so that one client, when is served by a quantity surveyor in by the name so and so, and the other one has been served by the other quantity surveyor, then these documents can be referred to by any other surveyor in another area, because the main reference that was referred to when preparing that given document is one. Another reason is for the purposes of good practice, which simply now elaborates the first, the rule number one, the uniformity. So good practice, to put it into perspective, simply means now the applicable or accepted way of doing a thing, so to say. So the accepted way of doing a thing is now, for instance, now we are referring to the professionals within the construction or the quantity surveying profession. So the accepted way of doing this particular estimation is now one of the reasons why the rules are put in place. Okay, so the rules are there for one, uniformity, and then two, for the purposes of good practice, and also now to uphold the ethics, so that there is no lack of there is no hitch in terms of communication, in terms of reference in what one profession is talking about, and what one professional is talking about within the same profession. So that said, never forget that these rules are important, because for you to now attain that title, that you're now legally accepted within that professional body, then you need to master these rules. You need to know why these rules are in place. Just in case you're wondering why we have to learn these rules as part of a beginner series, for every beginning, for everything that you do, definitely you need to know what are the game rules of the game. What is it that is governing this particular item, that particular approach that I'm giving at this particular time. So that's why these rules are important. And you will note, for instance, when you talk about bills of quantities, it has got different parts. So these different parts, you'd wonder why would they decide to use linear meter in this point but not square meter? Because the rule states that you need to refer to it, you need to measure that particular item in meters, while you need to measure a particular item in square meters. So these are the rules, just to give you an example of the specific rules that we'll be referring to later on, while we are done with this session, which is now bringing us into the concept of talking about rules and the applicability, where and how in various parts of this profession called quote surveying. So when we move to our next item that we are talking about, now these are examples of the rules. As I was starting, I told you that there are various rules which govern the profession in various regions of the world. So I have had a privilege of handling different students within the globe. For instance, Malaysia, for instance, Oman in Asia, also in America, and also within the domestic region, that is Eastern Africa. So we have Kenya and other countries that make up the Eastern Africa. So these regions, I realized that they have different rules. Because this particular session, we are talking about which are these rules, then we now need to give an highlight of these particular rules and also the regions. Now, what do they mean? You can see maybe an abbreviation: SMM, SMM2, NRM2, the SMM. So you'd wonder, why do we have these abbreviations? What do they stand for? And why are they in that given order? And which are the people, or which are the group that came up with such given rules for purposes of doing the estimations, or the so-called building up of bills of quantities. Now I would like to get into, so these are the examples. Then we now need to know now the detailed the descriptions of the rules that we have here. What do they stand for, and are they referring to builders work, or they're referring to civil works, and so on and so forth. So by the end of this particular session, then you should be able to know that this rule is applicable in this given region, this rule is applicable within this particular region, and this is the publishers, and this is how it applies. When you need such versions, then definitely now from the publishers is the best option for you to get the genuine versions of these particular rules. So let me just get back to the previous slide, and let's cover now the first one, SMM. So as we had talked about, we had hinted as we were starting that rules are especially applicable for the purposes of uniformity. Now, for rule number 1, it can be expounded in full as standard methods of measurements. So it's a standard method of measurements of builders work and associated civil works. Okay, so this SMM is now a version that is produced especially in the regions of Eastern Africa. So you would just take a minute, know which countries make up Eastern Africa, for instance, in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and so on. So these are standard methods of measurement for builders work and associated civil works. It has been published by a body called AK. So AK is the body that is responsible for the publishing of that particular edition of the guidelines, and AK in full would stand for Architectural Association of Kenya. So it has got different chapters, and now for this particular edition is now produced from Quantity Surveyors chapter. So the Quantity Surveyors chapter of the AK is responsible for the publications of the standard methods of measurements, which I've told you is now standard methods of measurements of builders work and associated civil works. So as I'd also said, for genuine versions of these SMM, of course you can find other versions, maybe you can download them, go through the whole copy and so on, but then now there are versions that you can only find within the particular within the body. So for those versions, you have to get them from the bodies that the Quantity Surveyors chapter of the Architectural Association of Kenya. Then we have another one called SMM2, which is now a version also, you can call it standard methods of measurements. Now 2 simply stands for the second version. So this version it's applicable in the region of in the area of a country of Malaysia. So the SMM2 is now also standard methods of measurements for buildings, builders work. So for the builders work, when you are in Malaysia, or for the students I've also handled within Malaysia and maybe other countries that are also applying SMM2, then that is what it stands for, and it's applicable within for the builders work within that given particular country. Okay. So for the SMM2, it has been published by a body called Institute of Surveyors, Malaysia. Now that is the body that is responsible for producing or publishing the SMM2 that I've just defined for you in the previous slide. Then we see the third item, the third example of the these given documents which have the rules for the estimation and preparation of the bills of quantities. Another one is called the NRM2. So these are new rules of measurement 2. So the new rules of measurement 2, it's specifically for builders work as well. So for these builders work, then the publications of this given NRM2 is based with the RICS, RICS, which stands for the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. So the Chartered Surveyors, or the Royal Institute of the Chartered Surveyors, have said they're the ones that are responsible for production or publication of this given document of NRM2. Then the fourth one in our list is ANZSMM. So this is the Australian and New Zealand standard methods of measurements. So these ones are also concerning also builders work, and from the name you can tell that it involves different regions. So for this, it involves now Australia and also New Zealand. So for the Australia and the New Zealand, they make a reference to this particular reference of document that has got the rules for estimation or preparation of their bills of quantities. So for this particular ANZSMM, so for this, the publication is based with the AIQS, which is now the Australian Institute of Quantity Surveyors. So they do the publications of these ANZSMM that I've just explained, also concerning also the rules done for the rules that are governing the preparation of bills of quantities for the regions that I've mentioned, that is Australia, New Zealand, Australia and New Zealand that I've said. Then let's see what we have. Yeah, so for the areas where these given rules are applicable, in the first item, I mean the first document, the SMM, I've talked about Eastern Africa, and Eastern Africa includes IE. We have Kenya, we have Uganda, we have Tanzania. So these are areas, these are countries where these rules can be applicable. So if in case you are undertaking a project within that place, then the communication within those given countries would be easier, because the reference or the terms of communication for the rules guiding those specific estimation for estimation purposes, then they are able to understand what one country and the other is talking about in terms of the specific rules that are now going to be governing that given process of estimation. Then we talked about SMM2, which is also now also standard methods of measurements, but especially this one for the one that of course I bet there are more, but the area that I've dealt with for this purpose is Malaysia. One of the students have handled in reference to this given rule for preparation of their builder's work estimates. Okay, and then we now have new rules of measurement 2, and in this case I can give an example of i.e. Oman. Oman is one of the countries in Asia. So these are given rule of NRM2. So areas within the Asia, maybe talk about United Arab Emirates. So in these cases, when you refer to the NRM2, then you are able to communicate effectively, because they definitely are able to understand what you are referring to for that given rule of estimation. Then in this case, we've talked about Australia and also New Zealand. So also the purposes of making these given discussions is because you know that you can have opportunities in different parts of the country. You can also have the different opportunities in beyond the country as well. So when you have idea of a specific rule that is applicable in a given country, then you can comfortably go through the rules that are there, or you already have idea of where those rules are coming from, and then you can go through them, understand them, and have your opportunity, do your job, and so on, without any obstacle in terms of communication for what you need, and also what governs their given estimation or measurements or preparation of bills of quantities, whatever they would refer it to in that particular manner. So now for the specific rules that are now contained within these within these given documents, these will be broken down further as we go on, for there are different numerous rules which are now contained with these given documents. So the specific rules are the now ones that are going to now guide you in estimating or preparing the bills of quantities for particular items. You understand that document, for instance, we talk about bills of quantities. It's a document that is covering various items. So the various items that I've told you have got various rules. So the detailed and also in-depth coverage of these particular items is coming definitely in the next in the next coverage of next episode of beginner series that is now going to indulge into the specific rules, of course in summary form, because the documents are bigger, and definitely we can't go through them one by one. So I'm going to prepare a summary. That's why you need to stay in touch, so that when the summary of the rules, particular parts of these given documents, when it now comes in, then you are able to refer to with what you understand, and also how to refer to these given parts of the rules. Now it would be in order that we also understand that we mentioned that these specific items, now they are given publishers that I've also just talked about within this given presentation. So these publishers are the ones that are authorized, and from them is where you can get the genuine versions, unless some of them you can buy online, but then you buy them through those given platforms. So for instance, if you need, for example, you need a SMM, then from the AK is now the one that is responsible for delivering such documents, the genuine versions. Of course, you might find other versions, but the reliable ones you have to get them from the professional bodies that is mandated to publish the given documents. So that said, I would like just to come to the last slide, and as it reads, the same thing that the second slide was reading, then you need to keep in touch, because I'm going to bring in now the specific areas of for instance SMM. That is now what's going to come first, specific areas, and summary of the specific rules which are now going to be used in now as we are going to build up on our preparation of bills of quantities as we move on. So please subscribe and stay tuned so you get what you need in a better way. Thank you so much for watching. Let's keep it on and wait for the next presentation that is going to be on specific rules of standard methods of measurements. That is all for now. I want to say thank you. Please do not remember to subscribe, share more, and we learn as we go on and on. Thank you very much.